Alrighty, so the next thing that we are going to go over is a conventional deadlift. So this is one of the ones that I like to introduce first because it feels a little bit more like a squat than a deadlift. The Romanian can be a little bit more technical. So this is a really great way for somebody to take something that they might already be familiar with or comfortable with and apply it in a different way. So the first thing that we're going to do is go through a little bit of the form and technique again. So we will use this bar eventually, but we're going to go ahead and start with the PVC pipe. Here you go. So with the setup, go ahead and face them for just a second. In terms of where you're going to grab the bar, so it does, there are some spots specifically that you can do, like there's some knurling or that little bit of texture on the bar that you can play with a little bit. But what I really like to have people do is actually grab just outside of their hips. So something that feels really comfortable, we're going to grab right there. Go ahead and face sideways again. And then technically this bar will be on the ground. So go ahead and pretend that it's about the same height as this bar. So while we have the bar on the ground, we want to do a couple of the same things that we've been doing. We want to create tension in the bar by pulling and kind of bending the bar with our pinkies. That is also going to help us engage our lats. So one of the things that I like to talk about a lot with this one is instead of thinking, go ahead and pull your shoulder blades back all the way. Instead of thinking pulling your shoulder blades back, because when you stand up, go ahead and stand up. That tends to be an arch, right? So you want to make sure we're not this far back. Go ahead and go back down. Instead of thinking about pulling those shoulder blades back, what I want to think about instead is tight armpits. So pull that bar as close to you as possible. We're bending the bar, we're creating tight armpits so that if I was to push him, it's not going to move anywhere, right? We're creating tension in that armpit itself. And then the other thing that I see a lot of people do is that they shrug their shoulders up to their ears pretty far. So they have a lot of tension, and that actually usually moves the bar a little bit further from you. So we want to anti-shrug. We're pulling those shoulders down. We're squeezing those lats in tight so everything in our top body is engaged. Go ahead and stand up. Now, the main reason that that's important is because this is a hip hinge movement. What that means is your butt or your hips is what is actually doing the work, not your top body. So I like to tell a lot of people, just pretend that your arms are cables and they're just holding the weight onto you, but they don't actually do anything, right? We want to make sure that we've got tension in that top body. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, beautiful. So what we're going to do is, again, that deadlift is typically going to come from the bottom. For now, we're going to pretend that we've already done half of it. And a lot of people, when they're first starting, I'll show you a couple of drills, will actually start their deadlifts at the top just to get a little bit more comfortable with this positioning. So it's going to be just like that squat, like we talked about. As you're starting to go down, go ahead and go butt back, knees forward. We're still getting that same pause, shoulder, knee, toe stack that we did before. Now you'll notice, right when we're passing the knees, it's gonna feel like they're getting in the way, right? But they're actually gonna naturally move out of the way. And then as soon as you get past the knees and we keep going, then your knees can start driving forward over the bar as we continue to go. Now you'll see that his chest is still pretty upright. This is the difference between a conventional deadlift and a Romanian deadlift. Go ahead and drive your butt to the ceiling, but stay in the same spot. That's a Romanian, drop your hips down. That's a conventional, go ahead and stand up. So again, it's gonna feel just like a squat. Same shoulder, knee, toe stack. We wanna make sure that we're in that nice accordion shape. Butt is back, and then everything is going down and up instead of back to front. That's how I like to distinguish the two of them. So go ahead and do that again. We're going down, and then those knees will start to come forward. And then the other piece that we want to do is we want to make sure that we keep the bar as close to our body as possible, right over that mid part of the foot. So see how he's pausing right there? Go ahead and put it a little further away from you. This is also a tendency to happen, is that the bar gets a little too far away. What does that cause people to do is drop their chest, right? Go ahead and stand up. So you want to keep that bar as close together as possible. Now, I used to have a client that was like, if your shins are not bleeding, you're not doing it right. We don't necessarily have to go that far, but it's that right idea, right? We almost want to think that we're scraping it down our thighs as we're going down, past the knees, and then down the shins, keep it nice and close, right? Right over the mid part of that foot. Go ahead and stand up. So that's the basics when it comes to our deadlift. The next piece that we want to talk about, again, is making sure that the hips are the main mover. So a lot of times what people will do is they'll accidentally lead with their chest first. See how that kind of gets your butt up a little bit closer to Romanian, but also not correct, because if you kept going with the chest, what does the bar do? It gets further and further from your body, right? So instead, keeping that chest upright, keeping the head in that nice neutral position, and driving with the hips first. So go ahead and drive your hips back as you're going, nice accordion shape. We can see that that's our main driver, and then we're squishing everything down to come down to the bottom. Good, go ahead and stand back up. Beautiful. So we're gonna face them so we can see the stance. So again, we have the bar about hip width apart-ish. Feet can be fairly close for this one. Also about hip width apart, wherever they feel most comfortable. You can go knees straight forward or toes slightly out. Not a huge difference. That's kind of up to you and your preference. Go ahead and do a couple from the front. Good. And then neutral head. Again, we're looking about 3 to 5 feet right in front of you to keep that nice neutral neck, and then go ahead and pull back up. Same thing here. We want to get as low as possible. With that being said, we're going to use the bar next, so you'll see how it kind of naturally stops itself. I'll grab that. All right, let's go ahead and roll this bar back, and then we'll scoot it a little bit further back as well. Perfect. Okay, so now we're getting set up. One of the most important parts, just like the safety of the squat rack racking position, is being able to make sure that we are properly taking tension out of the bar. So I'm going to have you step forward right until the mid part of your foot is underneath the bar. So we're putting it right over the mid part of his foot. He's going to go ahead and grab the bar. Now it's kind of fun when you're in a powerlifting gym. A lot of people, I do it just for fun sometimes, I think. They'll like shake the bar, go ahead and just... Now, but the main reason they do that, I know it sounds silly, go ahead and stand up. The main reason they do that is so they can feel the flex in the bar, because there is a moment where the bar is going to move before the weights actually move, right? Especially when you're lifting really heavy weight. So what we're going to do this time is that he is going to pull the bar up just a teeny bit until you feel a little click right before the plates are actually going to come off the ground. Go ahead and do that. We're grabbing, we're setting those shoulders in, nice tight core, big brace, beautiful, and then pull just the tension out of the bar. So yes, okay, it's a little bit of like a couple millimeters or something like that, right? But if you pull the bar off, especially if it weighs a lot and you don't take that tension out first, a lot of times that's how people end up getting a little bit injured, right? So now we're gonna go ahead and do the deadlift. We're gonna pull that tension out first, and then hips are your main driver. Go ahead. Tension out of the bar, and hips under. And same thing, big breath. Go ahead and exhale, work your way. Inhale, big breath. Exhale to the top. Good. We're arching just a little bit. Remember, close this rib cage. Yep, there we go, but big brace. Push out. Go. Knees forward, knees forward. Yep, there we go. And go. Nice, good fix, good fix. Saw how he's arched for a second, but he fixed it. Go ahead. Perfect, and relax. Cool. So that's the basics of our deadlift. So we want to make sure that we are keeping that core nice and tight. We're using that breath just like we did on the squat. Big exhale to the top, because that's when we're doing the most amount of work, and that we are controlling it back down. All right, so the next piece that we're going to go over is some common mistakes that happen when we're doing our deadlifts. So let's go ahead and grab onto that bar again. So one of the most common mistakes is that when we are lifting up, people are thinking about the hip hinge, which is awesome. Sometimes they go a little too far. So go ahead and lift it up like you're doing your deadlift, but then push your hips slightly more forward than they should be. So go ahead and push your hips forward, leaning slightly back. So you can see how much tension that puts in that lower back, right? We kind of have that distended abdomen. So we're gonna fix that by closing the rib cage, big brace, tuck the hips underneath, but not pushing them forward. Go ahead and do it wrong one more time so they can see the difference. So when people extend to the top, they'll extend a little too far, push the hips forward, leaning slightly back, right? So we want to make sure we're keeping that rib cage closed, tucking the hips underneath. Go ahead and do it one time correctly. So we're going up to the top, and I like to think of this as slamming the door shut, right? We go to the top, the ribs are fighting the glutes. They're running into each other and you're smacking them closed. Cool. Go ahead and go all the way down. Beautiful. Okay, so that's our first mistake. A lot of people lean back on that. Go ahead and stand up. The next piece is that a lot of people will start to lead with their top body. As we mentioned, this is a hip hinge pattern. Your hips should be the main mover, right? So I'm gonna have Ray do it really quick. Let's actually do this one with the PVC pipe, where we're doing it all with the top body, you know what I mean? So a lot of people will still bend their knees, but really what they're doing is just dropping their top body, right? Go ahead and bend your knees a little bit too. And then they're just like lifting their top body, and then they're just drop. I mean, it seems like it's almost the same thing, right? But like the hips are not the driver here. Remember that we want to maintain that tension in the top body. Everything's tight here. The hips are the ones that initiate. So butt first, and then everything follows because the butt's going back. There's a huge difference between that and letting the top body go forward and back. And then my biggest pet peeve is that people will be doing these beautiful conventional deadlifts or whatever deadlifts they're doing. And they're going up and down, and go ahead and do the end of a deadlift nice and pretty, right over the mid part of your foot, right? And then they stand up for their last one. And then they set the bar down, like way out here. And they just drop it. And you're like, whoa, bro, you just did all of that good work for your back, all your glutes, etc. And then you just destroyed it. And the reason it's a pet peeve is because that's when you get injured. That one rep at the very end when you just don't care and you set the bar down, like that's when we end up messing things up. So that's when I want to make sure that we are definitely ending every single deadlift just like we started. Make sure everything's nice. We've got that tension, we've got the control to the bottom. We're not just dropping the weight, right? So that's really important too. The last two things that I'm going to show you is some other equipment that we can use for deadlifts. So if you're not 100% comfortable with the bar yet, pause. One of the reasons I like the bar is it's a little higher. You don't have to go as far down, right? It gets a little more complicated when we have to go like all the way to the ground. However, you can use a kettlebell or dumbbells. So we're just going to show that briefly so you can see those options. So the reason I like the kettlebells is you can stick it right in between your feet. This gives you a really good idea. Let's go for a little bit. This gives you a really good idea of that same point that we were talking about, putting it over the midfoot, right? Because the kettlebell doesn't have to be in front of you or it doesn't feel obtrusive at all. So it's a really good way to get that line. So go ahead and grab that kettlebell, and it's usually significantly lighter. And so you're going to do the exact same conventional deadlift style. Knees forward a little bit. Yep. Perfect. So every once in a while, see how his knees were actually, go ahead and straighten your knees a little bit, and then it kind of causes his butt to come back, yep, and up toward the ceiling. What that usually does is it actually makes them lift with their top body first, and that's what we want to avoid. So instead we're going to drive the hips underneath, keep that chest slightly upright, and then go ahead and just pull hips up from the top. Go ahead and do a couple with the kettlebell. Perfect. So this is a really great way. Again, it's a nice height because it's about the same height as the bar, but sometimes it's a little bit easier and most of the time it's a little bit lighter. Good, go ahead and relax. Oh, he did it right, yes, cool. Okay, and then the last one I'm gonna show you is with the dumbbells. So a lot of my clients that are first learning deadlifts, one, maybe they don't have the equipment for being able to do anything other than dumbbells, but two, dumbbells are typically a little bit more comfy. So I'm gonna give you these. Now, the other reason that people have a hard time with the positioning of the bar is because it's so straight. Your arms have to be in line with each other. So I like the dumbbells for this because we get a little bit more relaxed about it. It doesn't necessarily have to be in that straight line. So normally, right, your bar is going to be about here. You'd have to keep it super close to your waist. But here we can relax them a little bit because they're a little bit more neutral, kind of like halfway through the front and halfway to the side, right? So now we're going to do the same deadlift. A lot of people, when they do it this way, because they're not touching the floor, they technically start from the beginning, from the top. Obviously, a deadlift is supposed to be from the ground, but you know, we'll get there. And then again, with it being a lighter weight and being a smaller weight, we're probably not going to touch the ground, which is totally fine. So if you're doing it with the dumbbells, go ahead and go. We're going to pause to about the same height that we'd have the bar, about mid-shin-ish height. And especially if you're not feeling super comfy or if you're not super mobile, you don't have to go this low either. Go ahead and go back up. But we're just working our way up and down to about where that shin height is going to be. Go ahead and do two more. Awesome. But the exact same deadlift style. So again, we can go lighter. We have a little bit more forgiveness in arm position. Helps to keep the armpits a little bit tighter. Cool. Okay, beautiful. And we're going to go ahead and show that barbell one more time just to make sure everybody has it fresh in their minds. So last bit, just a quick review. Feet underneath the bar, grabbing a little bit wider than hip width apart. Shoulders are tight, armpits are tight, core is engaged. You're pressing through the back and the belly, nice neutral head. Go ahead and do about 3 reps. Pressing through the floor, grabbing with your feet, and setting it down just like the end of a deadlift. Beautiful. And there we go.